Whatever you do, do not get this art kit. It is the worst thing you can get your kid. Get them something better, you piece of shit. Who do you think you are? $3 on art supplies so your kid can practice what they enjoy? How dare you? Get your ish together and get your kid an art supply that costs thousands of dollars because their interests are just starting to bud. And if their interests are just starting to bud, that means you need to invest a lot of money into it. How about this Christmas you stop being poor? Have you ever thought about that? Jokes aside, when I was younger, I loved things like this. Even though they're not the best art supplies, it does help you with patience and it does help you in the beginning of your career. And I am a big advocate for thinking that you don't need the best art supplies to be the best artist. So for this video, I am going to be using this set to make something that I'm proud of. I understand where the original tweeter was coming from. There are better things that you can get. A lot of people in this country are on a really tight budget. A lot of people in the world are on a really tight budget. And sometimes you can't even afford those few extra dollars to get something better. So I think it's important to show the potential of the cheap art supplies. And hopefully I will show that in this video. Ooh. So these colors are actually kind of awesome. The crayons aren't as creamy as Crayola, but you know what? They are so cheap, I'm not gonna even complain. I'm excited to use these for line work. Shut up. Oh my god, these are like kind of awesome. They don't blend like my Crayola Super Tips, but you know what? I'm not mad. You can do some cool line work with this. For how cheap this was, it should not be working like this. I'm gonna do a little practice. They even have like skin tones in here. Are you kidding? This is like perfect beginner stuff, to be honest. The paint is chalky. All right, note to self, if I want to use the watercolors, I need to not be so thick with them. I need to be weary of my highlights so I don't have to cheat. The markers are interacting with the colored pencil, so I have to remember that in the future to do the colored pencil last. Who did her makeup? They need to be fired. All right, let's get serious. Okay, let's start with a thin coating of skin. So actually, the paint looks a lot more chalky in video than it does in real life. You can definitely tell it's chalky in real life, but in the video, it's very exaggerated. I'm not exactly sure why. And although chalkiness is not a desired look, it's not what everyone's going for, clearly. But you could always do what I do and pretend that it was a stylistic choice. It's pretty chalky. But can I reiterate?
This is for children.
Oh no! Time to try and fix a mistake. And problems fixed, beach. This is where I started to have a lot of problems with the watercolor bleeding into each other, even though the watercolor was completely dry that I'd used before it. This was a huge learning curve that I didn't get through in the practice and that I had to work through in this. Just like the mistake that you saw before, I had many more that I had to fix. Another thing I'd like to mention is how the watercolor is changing color within like the blue purple I'm using. You can see like the pink coming out. My Crayola Super Tips do the same thing, and honestly, it's not something I expected to happen, but it's something that I kind of like. I don't hate it. I think it adds like a cool texture to it that wouldn't have been there had you tried to do that. Obviously, if it's not your jam, then don't jam with it, but I don't mind it. It is hard to layer watercolor, but it's nothing we can't work around. Okay, these are actually really hard to use. You can draw a straight line, but when it's over the watercolor, it's like, oh, so hard. There was a lot of layering with these materials, a lot of back and forth, a lot of experimenting, going straight to the marker with the paintbrush, trying to get those fine details. There was a lot of working and reworking. This truly was a challenge. I'm not saying that this was easy. I was challenged. I'm not gonna lie. This piece made me sweat. But it was worth it. And I think that's the whole point I'm trying to get across, is I would have rather used those shitty materials and had this at the end than used nothing at all and never had made this. Also, I wanted to apologize real quick. I didn't get very many camera angles when I was doing this. I had fully planned to, like my normal videos, but this was not a normal video. I was concentrating really hard, therefore forgetting once in a while to record a different angle. My bad. This has to be my favorite part. I'm going in, I'm adding details where I feel like they need it. I'm adding the colored pencil parts, which I was so excited to add, and what I think brought it all together. There's actually some points where I wish I hadn't used markers and I'd just gone in with the colored pencils, because the colored pencils are pretty good. Obviously, once again, they're not the best, but I love the detail that they add. I'm obsessed with it. Just make sure you don't put a lot of watercolor on, and you can layer the colored pencil over it with ease. Okay, I'm gonna cheat. I forgot to leave whites in the lips in the glasses. This pen is literally so cheap, so. I love this. This is what I've created. And I love how it turned out, actually. I put a lot of time and patience into this, and I think it turned out great. Although I realize that this kit was made for children, and that's probably the audience that you should keep it aimed at. I do think that if money is the thing that's holding you back from doing what you want to do, you should not do that. I have said this time and time again, but I remember being younger and thinking I couldn't do what I want to do because I didn't have the resources. But I did. This kit was $3. With a little time and patience and a little practice, I ended up making something I'm very proud of. I have many videos about stuff like this. I'm kind of obsessed with how she turned out, and that never happens for me. So this holiday season, if you want to get your child an art kit and you can't afford to get a super fancy one, this $3 art kit will definitely do the trick. I know when I was younger, I would have loved it. But if you do want to fork out a few extra dollars, if you do get like a $20, $30 art kit, it's not that bad. As long as you can put colors on paper, you can get where you want to be. I did cheat a little. I used this brush. I paid no money for that brush, and it's like the main brush that I use for anything. I accidentally stole it when I was in high school, so take that as you will. And then this pen, you can achieve highlights if you're not dumb like me and you plan those ahead of time. So yeah, I hope that this did something. No hate to the original poster. I understand where he's coming from completely. Had I been a few years into the art field and someone had gotten me this, I would be frustrated probably, and I would be like,
You should know me more by now.
That's it for today's video. If you liked it, please leave a like down below. I post a video every single week, and happy holidays. Create art
Or else.
That's all I have to say. Bye. Oh crap, I didn't end it at the mirror. Bye everyone. Say bye, Arnie. Bye.